Good morning. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here with you, and I'd like to welcome you to the celebration of the 15th anniversary of the LL.M. program. It is really a pleasure to be here, and with no further ado, I will turn the floor over to Leah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So thanks to all of you for being here to attend this two-panel program on cross-border lawyering in the digital age. Thanks very much to Sarah Duggan, who helped me with design of the program and recruiting 3 of our excellent panelists who are working with Sarah on CUA's Compliance, Investigations, and Corporate Responsibility Initiative. Julie Bowen, Tara Giunta, and Matthew, well, we decided to use the Polish pronunciation, Majkut. So we're also very pleased to have 3 of our LL.M alumni on the panel. I always say Wojciech because it's easier. Wojciech Jarosinski, Justyna Regan, and Vincenzo Senatore. And this reunion celebrates the 15th anniversary of the LL.M. and the 27 years of the International Business and Trade Summer Law Program founded by Professor Ludwikowski. That program is a component of the LL.M., so all of the LL.M. graduates are also alumni of the summer program. We're very pleased to have Thomas Small on the program, who has been one of the most active alumni of the summer program. And we also are thankful to have help from 2 of the students from last summer, Laura Della Torre and Alex Cadegay, who were students in the program last summer. If you go in the library, you must all go to the library to the fabulous exhibit about CUA's international programs generally, not just the programs in Poland. You'll see a picture of Alex because his law firm was so proud of having him as an intern. They put it on their website and we have it in the library. So Jagiellonian in Krakow is a longtime partner in the summer program, the LL.M., the establishment of their clinical program, the oldest one in Central Europe, and in the American Law program, which CUA professors teach at Jagiellonian in what is now the 19th year. So we're also pleased to have on the panel the Dean of Jagiellonian University, Wojciech Jarosinski, and the administrator par excellence of the Foreign Law School Center, who's been there since its beginning 18 years ago, when she was only 10, Julianna Kobierzynska. And we're also pleased to have in the audience former Dean Tadeusz Buka. So we're also very happy that Eva Don-Simeon from the CBZ Legal Advisors in Warsaw, Krakow, and Łódź is here to join us. She, as she will talk about, is actively involved in representation of companies in the shared services sector, which is a major part of the Polish economy now, and certainly of the Krakow economy. So you have bios for our distinguished panelists in your programs. And so we are in a moment just going to start with Mr. Jarosinski, and then we will just go down the row, and there won't be any introductions. They will just, when one is finished, the next one will move on. And we have a strict timekeeper there in the front row, Alex, who's going to flash a 2-minute, a 1-minute, and a stop sign, because we're trying to keep each panelist to 5 minutes, so we will have time for the audience to make comments and for people to comment on each other. I noticed that at least this program I got was staple drawn. Now, some are right, some are wrong. So if you don't have a program that has this order of panelists, if you took out this and refolded it the other way, it would be correct. Or you could just kind of flip through. But if you have them stapled properly, people will be in this order. And you can read their bios, and there's wonderful information, because this is a really distinguished group of people, and I'm so happy to have you here. So at 10:20 promptly, we're going to end, and at that point, this panel will swap our panels. We'll have a recognition of Professor Ludwikowski, who is the forefather of this all, who got it all started. So with no further ado, I turn to Wojciech.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Wojciech Jarosinski. I was tasked with speaking about the LL.M. context of cross-border lawyering. And I thought I would start with an example to make this conversation easier. And this example will relate to my day-to-day practice, which is software license updates. And why this sort of updates, which may sound boring? It's because we all have licenses in our pockets. I particularly have one from Cupertino. I suppose you may have either from Dart or from Palo Alto. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The license law goes around the entire planet. the network around of licenses made by Oracle, Microsoft, SAP, DXC just circulates the earth and makes this particular law quite universal, a good place to exercise LLM skills. And why it's interesting as well is that those corporations that create that law are driven by Excel, driven by profit, and if the profit does not add up, they try to find a new source of profit. Recently, it became the audits. Another example, let's take a, let's say client, my client in Krakow, where a software was deployed. Small software deployment, $2 million in licenses, $500,000 per year in maintenance fees. And let's take this random company from random town in Washington, let's say Redmond, or wherever, that wants to make a bigger profit in the upcoming year. So what they do, they launch a global audit plan. And the audit teams visit different deployment places where the software was deployed and try to run the audit. So a team comes to Krakow and knocks to the door of my client and says, hello, we would love to do the audit. And there is me, I say, of course, it's nice to see you over here. We would love to sign an NDA. NDA sounds really reasonable. Of course, NDA sounds normal. And we start to negotiate the NDA. And that's how we celebrate first Christmas in Krakow together. Once the NDA is signed, the software audit team is really happy they can deploy their own software to investigate the platform, see what's the breach. They see the millions in their eyes that result from the breach, from the abuse of the software license. And then I say GDPR, scary word. Everybody is scared about GDPR. So we enter new negotiations because it's sensible to negotiate about GDPR. It's so hot, buzzing word right now in Europe. And that's how we celebrate second Christmas. And what happens then? Of course, it's fine. I'm a lawyer. I just want to help my client, the other party that is doing the software license audit. We signed the GDPR agreement, and do you want to enter? The client says security. Gentlemen are fed up. They return to Redmond or other town in Washington, ask General Counsel what to do with those unpleasant Polish people. The General Counsel looks at the contract, says jurisdiction is local. Why we don't petition the local court, ask for specific performance? They get specific performance, they fly back to Krakow. The specific performance says, let them enter the software platform and investigate it in detail. And that's me again. And I say, no, not really. Over there, there's a court in Krakow. You have to get a stamp from the Polish court, and those poor gentlemen are left with either 5 years of litigation with me or signing a nice agreement with my client. And why I'm telling that to you? See, if I didn't graduate from the LL.M program, I wouldn't have confidence to be so bold towards the software audits. I have a general feeling about American law, of course, I'm not proficient in it, but I understand the concepts and I know where I can say, where I can deploy countermeasures against those audits. What more, I know that if my Polish client would like to run a software audit in States, I would call one of you and ask for help. If they want to do that in Italy, I would call Vincenzo and ask him to assist me. Because even if in this most globalized area of law, the touch of local lawyer is important. Thank you.
Yeah, just pull it around. Okay, we'll just share the mics around.
If you can't hear me, let me know. Good morning, I'm very impressed so many people are out bright and early on a Saturday and to listen to us, but thank you. So I'm the wild card on the panel because I never took a single international law class in law school. I was part of Professor Lipton's securities law program and went to a law firm and then was in-house at a lot of public companies. So obviously a securities law background was helpful. And then at about 13 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something very different. I wanted to get a security clearance. I wanted to learn national law. And I then went in-house with a company that is a nonprofit, so securities law background parked. And we are a nonprofit research center who does primarily research and development on behalf of the US government. So think about that. The US government is a leader in research and development in a lot of very critical areas like aviation, a lot of communications and military systems and commands. And to that end, our government wants us to share those things in the form of license and services to a lot of foreign nations and different civil aviation authorities. So fast forward 13 years later, I spend a lot of time outside of the US working on international transactions. So I have learned a lot and continue to learn a lot as we go. And very timely, I almost had a trip tonight to Kuwait to work on, and I'm very grateful it's been postponed a few weeks, to work on an international transaction to share cybersecurity capabilities that the US Embassy wants us to share with a nation that might be in between two non-friendly nations that might be a target. So everything that I do internationally is wildly fascinating and interesting, and it's always nice to have a white hat on to go try to do things. However, I'm the general counsel of a pretty large company, and we'd like to stay secure. So I have a tough job in that it's all great things to do. It furthers our initiatives to have a safer world. However, there's a lot of risk associated with work internationally. So each country that we work in presents a whole host of new, I always call them opportunities because I don't like to see things negatively, but I rely a lot on the help of local law firms and accounting firms, because of course you're not seen as a nonprofit in a lot of international jurisdictions. In fact, in Australia, I had to get nonprofit status for us to do some military work, and we were the first organization outside of the US that's not a church or charity to get nonprofit tax status, which of course is great when it's done. For the year and a half it took to get it, it was certainly full of challenges. But I look forward to hearing from others and having some great interactions because, like I said, I learn something new every time, and I also go in knowing I know a lot less than what I'm going to need to know at the end of a transaction.
That's not moving.
Oh, can you not?
That's okay. I can talk loudly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's picking up. Thank you. So I'm Tara Giunta. I'm a partner in Paul Hastings, and I practice in international corporate internal investigations, global compliance, risk assessments, and compliance programs. When I started, and what I focused on at Catholic Law was the communications law program, and that's actually why I came to Catholic originally. And at the beginning of my career, I focused on international telecommunications, which is actually what got me into what I do today, because back then, 30 years ago, was when the whole Bell system was breaking up and the telecom companies were moving outside the US, and many foreign countries were privatizing their PTTs, and so they were interacting with government officials, which meant the risk profile increased in terms of bribery and corruption. But what I focus on really is helping companies, corporate clients, get on the ground, deal with compliance-related risks in those areas, and to try to help structure compliance programs to mitigate or avoid those risks, handle those risks that are there. And then when there are issues, to conduct internal corporate investigations, figure out what, if anything, happened, develop appropriate remediation plans, and again, when appropriate, assist with disclosure to the U.S. enforcement authorities. My practice that came as a result, and I worked my way through law school, so I was at different law firms, focused on telecom, international telecom when I was in law school, really positioned me for how to approach the cultural challenges, and you referenced it a bit as well, Julie, on being on the ground in multiple markets, and in what I do, dealing with highly sensitive areas and also cultural dynamics that can affect the information you get. And so the whole objective, regardless of whether it's on the compliance side or it's on the internal investigation side, is you're trying to get to the truth and you're trying to remediate anything that may have happened and hopefully get the company and its employees on firmer footing moving forward. So I rely obviously on the offices and my colleagues in other offices outside the United States in doing that. And of course, we deal in a lot of very high-risk markets, some of which in which we do have offices, others we do not. And so over the years, we have developed very strong relationships with local counsel in those jurisdictions with expertise in the areas that we need. And really, they help us, and we work very collaboratively, understand the cultural dynamic. And just to give one brief example, we were in India, and this particular client, this is the first time that client had gone through an internal investigation. And not only the legal regime having to do with employee rights, with how you could, their privacy expectations with their laptops, but was just the cultural dynamic of trying to de-escalate the understandable upset and emotion when you come in to do that, and to message it in a way that would de-escalate and would allow us to be effective in what we needed to do and not completely disrupt the operations of the company and of the client. So local counsel, and it's a theme I think that we're hearing today, local counsel are critical to what we do and the effectiveness of what we do, and we really are in partnership with those local counsel to help us be effective for our clients. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justyna Regan, and I'm here to basically share my personal experience and to explain how my experience with the Catholic University of America basically changed my life and made me who I am, and definitely impacted where I am now professionally. So I am a graduate of the summer program of 1999, as well as I am an LL.M graduate of the class of 2005. So starting with the summer program, back in 1999, Poland was still on its way to market economy. That was only 10 years after the wall came down. So when we were presented with that, when I learned about that opportunity to join a group of American students and learning and being exposed to American legal system, I didn't even think twice. And the reason why I didn't need to think twice was because of also a scholarship being provided. And when I say a scholarship, I only mean covering the cost of spending 6 weeks in Krakow, which honestly, back in '99, for me, being a law student, being at the age of 22, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So I didn't even think twice. I applied and I got accepted, even though it was very competitive. It was more than 10 students applying for one place, so we were all really trying to get in. And as soon as the program started, it was a shock. It was a shock to me personally and shock to all other Polish students. Because that for the very first time in our lives, we were exposed to people who were thinking so different. I already heard this word bold. That was the first adjective that came to my mind when I was talking to my American colleagues. They were bold, but not in an arrogant way. They were bold in the sense of sky is the limit, which for us was such a huge cultural shock. Because in Poland, we are all taught, and this is the way we are raised, to be humble. And honestly, humble is not that good. Modest is good, but humble, not that much. So this is why talking to our American colleagues was a shock. And it was also this first moment which actually changed the way we were thinking about us, about our future career. At the same time, with Professor Lubikowski, now I think that he was doing it consciously. He was making us speak publicly. We had to present in front of the whole class, which for me, that was the first time in my life. I was unbelievably stressed, but then I was put together with my American colleague, with whom we are friends for life, which made everything so much easier. So that was back in '99. A class of 10 Polish students who now are either working abroad or are partners in the biggest Polish or international law firms. Why? I think that it's not because of Professor Lubikowski basically doing this cherry picking the best of Polish law students. It was about us being molded, wanting more and understanding that sky is the limit. So this is why when I learned about the LL.M program, I didn't even think twice. I signed up, and that was my second experience with the Catholic, which at first was a little bit painful because the class that I signed up was Law of Evidence taught by Professor Barracuda, and we got that huge book, which we didn't even look into. So we didn't realize that we were supposed to read the first assignment for the class. And I was the first one who was approached by the professor and asked to share my opinion about case number 1. And when I admitted that I'm not familiar with that case, he made a comment that, again, was another life-changing experience, because he said, please, don't waste my time, and don't waste the time of your colleagues. So this is why I spent almost 2 months familiarizing myself with the library here. Because I was spending there like 10 hours per day, because I didn't want to be intimidated for another time. So, having said that, once you are being a European, and probably even more being Polish, when you are exposed to things like that, it really changes you. So this is why next, like in 2011, when I learned about Fulbright scholarship, bring it on, why not? So this is how, and this is why I spent a year in Chicago, and I know, and,
It's okay.
and the rest is history, because now I am living and working in Chicago. I am licensed both in Poland and in Illinois. Again, sky is the limit, right? And again, if not for you, Professor Lubikowski, if not for you, Professor Wortham, I wouldn't be where I am. I am unbelievably grateful, and thank you. I don't have words to thank you enough.
Okay, so my name is Julianna Kobierzynska, and I will talk about, I won't be modest, unique institution that is at Faculty of Law and Administration at the Jagiellonian University, which is Center for the Cooperation of Foreign Law Schools. It has a strange name, so we're thinking to change it, and it was created in the year 2000 by Professor Fryderyk Zoll, and supported, of course, by our former dean and present dean, Professor Wudyka and Pisuliński. And its aim was to get familiar Polish students with foreign laws, to broaden their legal perspective, and as well to increase their chances on a difficult labor market. And at first we had German law school already. It was founded in the year 98. And then at first we had American law school with the Catholic University, French law school with the University of LL.M. Then we added Austrian law school with the Vienna University, then Ukrainian law school with 2 universities in Kiev and Lviv. After that, we also created Slovak law school, and now we are starting Spanish law school this year with 2 universities, Granada and Alicante. We cannot forget also about programs at Ukraine that are also very important for us, and we teach Polish law at two Ukrainian universities in Ternopil and Lvov. It's also very important for the Ukraine and for the Ukrainian students. I would like to talk a little bit about the American programs. Why American program? Why is it so special for our students is what Justyna said, that is the way of teaching, the way of thinking that is so unfamiliar to our students, and it really changes their lives, the way of legal thinking and the way of thinking about their future, about their lives. A lot of students says that it was the best experience during their whole studies, which is maybe not the best promotion of our faculty, but still it is. Still, they very often say so, and it's also a very good opportunity for them to have friends, to make real friendships. Because usually during the studies they have different classes, they don't get to know each other, and during the whole year, real friendships are made during this whole year. We also have another very important international program, which is of course a European program, which is called Erasmus+. And it was created in 1987, and I think almost all of the universities in Europe are taking part in it. And there are two types of Erasmus exchange. One, students come and they just take courses at other universities, and another one is internship. So they go for 3 months or half of the year, and they have internships in the companies. Some people even says that it's a phenomenon called Erasmus experience, and it's creating something like pan-European identity. Maybe it is, and it's creating Erasmus generation. I think this is a little bit true, because the aim of this program is mainly to give students educational, linguistic, and cultural benefits, and of course encourage cooperation between higher education institutions. And the third one, which is I think very important for us all here, is to develop significant group of European professionals with international experience who are open-minded as well as qualified in their fields. I think this is something very important in creating the united Europe. Okay, so thank you.
Our panelists have done a wonderful job of keeping to their time and using our time extremely well, as we're all through their comments. So we now do have some time, so we'd love to have some comments or questions from the audience, and then our panelists might have a chance to, refer to each other. So from the audience, anyone have a question or a comment? Oh, because I'm going to have some recognitions in a moment, but first, questions, comments?
I'd like to know a little more about bar admissions in Europe, and whether it's a single admission for EU or is each country separate? How does it work?
Or do you want to?
Sure, I can. I'm an advocate in Poland, which contains 2 bars, actually. And those 2 bars, unlike the UK, for instance, which also has solicitors and the barristers, those are the same. That's just historical element unique to Poland. And admission in Europe is national. It's national based. You would usually have to do it in a sort of apprenticeship, be enrolled with some sort of studies within the bar structure, and then pass a final exam that will allow you to represent clients in the courts. In Polish case, that's 3 years of additional studies after you graduate from 5-year law school.
Let me add one more comment. The United States has a much broader definition of practice of law than most other countries. We're very big on keeping other people out of our business, and so the term of art that's usually used is reserved activity. So what's a reserved activity? And this is controversial in Poland, people now correct me, but generally Poland, like other European countries, has a broader range of things that you can do if you're not a member of the bar. So there are a variety of things that are done in particularly large law firms in Poland or in other parts of Europe that we would say were unauthorized practice of law if you were not a member of that country's bar, that are still permissible. And that's why the accounting firms zoomed over to Central and Eastern Europe. And the accounting firms have this major role in Europe that doing things that we wouldn't let them do here. And that's also, so the definition of what you have to be a lawyer to do, though, is a bit different, and that affects the question you're talking about.
May I have a question?
What?
Anybody from the audience has?
Yes.
Maybe I can a little bit add to Wojciech's comments regarding the admission. So within the EU, there is also such an option that you can apply to be enrolled as so-called foreign attorney, and then you file a special motion in a local bar. So let's say there is a German colleague practicing in Germany, so he can apply to be admitted as a foreign attorney. Then he can represent his clients in Poland, but he must be assisted by the Polish attorney. But still, he can also, advocate in courts. That's it.
Thank you.
Let me just add that under the European directive, foreign lawyers can convert the qualification in other member states in Europe. They can they have to spend 3 years in that specific country that they want to be qualified and make practice with the local law firm, or they can sit for examination to get the qualification, and the bar can convert some specific subject matters that you have already passed this examination in your own country.
Vincenzo is a qualified lawyer in the UK, a solicitor as well as in Italy. So, Sarah.
I have a comment, Leah, and it's in response to something that you said, Justyna, and you talked about a life-changing experience, and I just wanted to say from the faculty perspective, it's a life-changing experience too. I was general counsel of a company in a health system before I came to Catholic and to the American Law program, and worked with Professor Wortham, Professor Lukakowski, and I didn't work in the international field to the extent that many of our panelists have, but I did have opportunities to do that at a time when I think we were just becoming more and more global. But I never had the kinds of experiences that I've had, thanks to all of you in Poland and those of you who facilitated the program, to get to know people in another place, to understand the world from a different perspective. And it has been life-changing. It's made a difference in the way I think about the world, and it's made a difference in the way I teach classes here in the US as well as Poland. So thanks to all of you. It's really been terrific.
Steve.
I was just wondering, what is the job market like in Poland for attorneys, and do a large percentage of the students at Jagiellonian go to other countries after their law degree?
I guess Julianna is the best person to answer.
The labor market, I think now it's getting a little bit more difficult for the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, but because simply I think there are too much lawyers and not enough. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there is a lot of medium quality lawyers.
Yes.
And from the employer perspective, it's difficult to find those lawyers that at least in my practice, that they have the high skills of running tough technology projects. So the market definitely can accommodate more lawyers in Poland, but I struggle a lot to find high quality lawyers among students who graduate from universities.
I think Eva's going to comment and Justyna's going to comment.
I wanted to add to answer maybe partially your question. What I see in Warsaw, not in Krakow, is actually quite a bit of migration of Polish lawyers who have who have had some foreign education, and they go on to foreign jurisdictions and they take additional courses, typically LL.Ms, and they start working for those in those countries, and it's a phenomenon that is fairly recent. When I worked at Sherman and Sterling earlier here in New York, I was the only person from Central Eastern Europe. Yesterday, I spoke with the managing partner of Sherman and Sterling, and he told me that they have now quite a large number of Central Eastern European graduates who only did LL.Ms. Previously, you had to have a JD from a top US law firm. Now they admit people with just an LL.M.
So the way I think about that is that nowadays Poland is trying to identify this golden middle, Because for years, there was so much nepotism, and in order to be admitted, because as it was explained earlier, the way it works in Poland is completely different from the way it works in the US. So in Poland, not only you have to graduate from a law school, but you also have to have that articles, like that apprenticeship, and in order to start it, you have to pass an entrance exam that's being organized by local bars. And then once you graduate, which basically adds like almost 4 years after the law school, then you are taking that state exam. So for years, it was basically, there were only or mostly kids or graduates who had some sort of connection, that they were who realistically had chances to become lawyers. It completely changed less than 10 years ago. And then the market opened up completely. So this is why the number of lawyers doubled, or even probably even quadrupled, right? So nowadays, probably, this is why now I think that Poland is in the moment when it's trying to reach that equilibrium when it comes to market needs versus number of lawyers who want to find a position, either with a law firm or being a general counsel.
And one important notice, it changed, the situation changed thanks to the alumni of American Law Program.
Yeah, that's exactly the story I'm going to tell. I taught in the summer program in one summer, 1997. And because there was no material in English about the Polish system, we had pairs of Polish and American students. Thomas was in my class, and they were doing presentations about different aspects, comparing legal ethics in the US, confidentiality, conflicts. But we had one about admission to the bar. And even though I had already been to Poland a couple of times, no, actually this was my first time. They said that they had these entrance exams, and the advocates in Krakow took 25, and in Warsaw they took 40. And I said, you've got to be kidding me, and coincidentally, they were usually the children of existing advocates, or maybe a couple of doctors swapped off, And so I said, this is crazy, this has to change. And I'm always laughing that, I always say, the Poles have this thing to me, that I've been to Poland 37 times, and they say, oh, it's never going to change. Now, Poles don't believe that. Poles are the best resistors in the world. They've resisted everything for hundreds of years. But they have to go through it'll never change. And okay, but I can say, no, it'll change, it has to change. And then the first year of the American Law Program, we had a graduate who was in the program, Michał Kuczynski, and we went out to beer afterward, and he says, I'm thinking about bringing a lawsuit about the bar admission program. I said, what a great idea. And he always said to me, I was the first person who said, what a great idea, absolutely. And he brought his lawsuit, went to the Supreme Administrative Court, they referred to the Constitutional Court, and he won. And that brought the system down. And so I now, fast forward, teach an American legal profession class every year. So now I have the students who are moaning about the fact that there's a crowded market. But I try to tell them this story and sweetly say, but at least today you have a chance. And before you didn't have a chance. And one of the other things goes to the definition of being a lawyer, which goes to Sarah's program in compliance and courts of investigation. In Poland still, and I think in much of Europe, there's a very traditional view of what a lawyer is. So when people say, I'm not being a lawyer, and then they tell you what they do, we would say, well, you're a lawyer. You work in a compliance program, that's being a lawyer. But so I think a lot of what Polish law students need to get over is the definition that the only kind of job you should have is a very traditional job in a law firm, and if you aren't doing that, of course, you're not being a lawyer. And I think that part of it is broadening the notion, and that's something we talk a lot about in my class, with applications of technology to more other forms of delivering legal services and other ways of being employed using your legal background. So, great, thanks.
As one of the most recent participants in the 2018 summer program, I just want to reflect on my experience, which was not only life-changing, but it gave me an opportunity to understand the cultural shift that has taken place in Poland. And as a Catholic, and the impact of Pope John Paul II's relevance to not only the cultural conversations, but also that as capitalism takes over the dreams and the ambitions of Polish communities, it was a phenomenal experience for me to learn from Professor Rukowski's International Comparative Trade class and the Law of the European Union class, and I did an externship in one of the international firms. So just interacting with the Polish, I want to refer to what Christine said in terms of being humble. They're not only humble, they're very gentle, but in a very self-possessing way. And that was very much a phenomenon that I hadn't experienced so much in the United States. So I would say it is a strength in many ways, and so I was able to work with that. And I especially want to refer to the level of organizational complexity and the collaboration that needs to happen in order to have Jagiellonian and Catholic work together. And so as someone who has sort of done some work, I just want to say thank you so much for making this possible. And I hope that it will be possible for many students because of the integrative benefits that come from such an experience, especially for those students who want to practice at the international level. So if you can count on us, the participants, to help you in any way, I would extend my help. And I want to thank my university, Catholic and Jagiellonian, for having provided this opportunity for me and my fellow students. I have lasting friendships with students from Poland who participated in the program. So it's a phenomenal experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.